Hey, and welcome to the Cognizant Crone. Today is day 22 of the 365-day challenge, blog challenge, and today I want to talk about ego. Let's talk about ego. Hang on. I need some lip balm for this. I need some lip balm to talk about the ego. Not really, but I just feel the need. Okay, so let's talk about ego. There's a lot of different ways we could look at the ego, right? Like our own ego. And it's a really big thing to unpack. So as usual, my videos are pretty light, right? So I'm going to talk about that version of ego that is part of all of us, and it's part of our humanity, okay? And I wanted to bring this up because I was just thinking about how a lot of spiritual teachers and speakers and everything talk about ego like it's something, some evil thing that has to be annihilated. And you have to get rid of your ego. You have to kill your ego. You have to transcend your ego. Yeah, I'll buy that. But to me, like, I used to kind of think that way too, like, oh, you got to get over your ego has to go, blah blah blah. And I started kind of looking at it from a different perspective, in that ego is there to protect us, right? And I know that a lot of spiritual practices and programming and reprogramming and stuff focuses on trying to transcend, bypass, get around the blocks that our ego has put in place. And our ego puts blocks in a place for a reason. It's to keep us safe and protect us. The issue is that it's really hard to rationalize, have a rational conversation with your ego to say, listen, everything's going to be okay. So, just like cool your jets, everything's all right. And we can just make this change. The ego doesn't see it that way. So what I started doing is I pulled my ego into what I would describe as the definitive parts of myself. So obviously I have a human body, like this is me, right? This is Nancy. But I also look at now my holy trinity, I will call it, is my higher self, my inner child, and now I'm including my ego, because I think that it's really important that for your higher self and especially your inner child to get what they need and even what they want, you have to do some negotiating with the ego. You have to include ego in the conversation, because if it feels like it's being acknowledged and heard and has a voice, then it tends to let go a little more. And I played with this a bit. with a few different things, and I would just have a chat with the ego to say, okay, listen, here's something that I want to change, and see what the reaction is, right? Like, how does that feel ego-wise? And every time it's like, oh, I don't know about that, right? And I found that as I worked with my ego a little bit more, and I made some promises, like if we decide together that this isn't good, or it doesn't feel good, or we see it's going in a bad direction, we won't do it, right? But if we see that the changes are not negatively affecting anything, then we can move forward. And it works. Like, I haven't done this a ton. I've just kind of played with it a little bit. And it actually feels good too. Like I said, the ego is that part of us, make sure we pay our bills on time and, don't run stop signs and things like that, right? Like, your ego does those things for you. Your ego is there for protection. So when it is recognized and respected, I think it's easier to work with it than fight against it, right? And I hope that makes sense. And you know what? This is actually going to be a really short video, because that's pretty much it. Like, I just wanted to put that out there and say, this is what I tried doing, and it seems to work a little bit. I'm going to dig into this more and utilize that dialogue tool with my ego more, but I wanted to put it out there as something for you to think about, right? So tell me, like, put in the comments, right? Like, how do you see your ego? How do you view your ego? What value do you see in your ego, if any? And how do you work with your ego, if at all, right? Or if you have an opposing view, throw that down there too. Or something that maybe can shed some light on things for all of us, right? But this is just kind of my thoughts on the ego, and you know, I'm going to keep working with that. I'm going to keep playing with that concept and really honoring my ego as part of who I am. I think if we try to eradicate ego, that kind of takes away from the whole humanistic experience. Well, that's why we're here. Like, I understand that we want to evolve in consciousness, and whether it's to attain enlightenment or just to live a better life or just improve ourselves as contributing members to society, whatever. But you know, you really can't just get rid of ego. You need that ego in order to experience what it means to be a human, right? So it's just a few thoughts around that. If you want me to go deeper or talk any more about ego, let me know. You know, put it in the comments. I love seeing what you guys have to say, and you know, spark discussion. Why not? All right, I'm gonna leave it there. So there we are, day 22 done. I will see you tomorrow for day 23. Bye for now.